So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your KITS Webinar Wednesday. My name is Franklin, and I'm the Product App Specialist for KITS and your webinar host. All right, so today I'll be demonstrating using our environment photo feature to enhancing your project. Julia will fill you in with today's agenda.
So we're going to be adding environment photos using the Include Environment Photo feature. Then we're going to be using sample environments that are provided to you. Also taking that photo of your client space. And lastly, using photos from previous projects. So as always, we're going to go through the opportunity for today's webinar. So Franklin is on site and he's gone over the proposed layout with the client and is ready to close this project, but he wants to complete his sales package using the environment photo feature.
So first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up that project that we've created for the client. So this is the project I just put together for the client, and what I need to do now is reassure the client that this layout will work perfectly in the space provided. So no need to get my designers involved, because what I can do is I can quickly use our environment photo feature to somewhat validate the actual layout in the scene. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go ahead and tap on HD Render, and then I'm going to go ahead and tap on Include Environment. And this is the Select Environment feature screen here. So I have the options of creating a new environment by taking a photo, or by using some other samples that we have here that we've included to kits. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tap on Sample Environments first. And basically here you can see that what we've done was we've created a bunch of user-friendly environment photos that can be used really to replicate or reflect how the project actually looks within the context of a building. So basically what we are really trying to do here is just show the client and illustrate what the layout will look like within a building with 4 walls. So really the idea here is that you review what we have available, try to understand what sample best reflects your client space, and then select that environment. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one. And what I can do is I can go ahead and tap on Use to bring it right to my scene. So let's go ahead and tap on that. And you can see how the actual layout is placed. Okay, again, it may not be the exact space that you're going to be using, but again, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you use a space that somewhat reflects your client's existing space. Here, you're just actually showing them what the layout is actually going to look like within the building here. Another thing that you can do is, I'm just going to go back to the Include Environment photo feature. And I'm going to go ahead and tap on the sample. Another thing that you can do here is you can also calibrate the image so that the layout actually comes into scale. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on Calibrate. And what you see on my screen is basically the option to entering the size of an object within the scene. In the middle, you have this 3D measuring tape, which we're going to actually place on that object to measure. And then you have a scaler here to making sure that you scale it correctly. So in this case, I know that the ceilings are roughly about 10 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and place the measuring tool along the wall as best as I can. And then I can even rotate it or zoom in if I have to. Here I can get a little bit more detailed with placement, and then I can rotate it so that it follows the perspective lines of the image. And since I know it's 10 feet tall, what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter that size. And then I'm going to just quickly zoom out here, because what I want to do is I want to scale that 3D measuring tape to indicate where 10 feet is in the image. So basically what I'm telling kits is that this particular wall that this measuring tape is on measures up to 10 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on Done. And once you're satisfied with that scale, go ahead and tap on Use. And now you can see that the layout that I've just added has increased in size based on the actual scale that we've just provided in this image here. Okay, so again, it may not be the exact solution for you, you will have to play with the scale, because actually what you can see here is that this particular sample room may not be adequate to show the layout. So again, you can always go back to the include environment feature to select a different environment there. But if you're satisfied, what I do is normally is turn off the actual foregrid, and then you can go ahead and create a rendering. Okay, so in case you wanted to switch that environment, you can easily go back to your environment, tap on samples. This time I'm going to pick a different environment. Let's go ahead with the 2,500 square foot tower. And then again, we can tap on use. And then now we can place the furniture where we need to. Okay, and if you're satisfied with that, all you need to do is go ahead and create that rendering so that you can actually provide your client with some kind of image to refer to. Okay, and again, don't forget if you're client facing, what you want to do is make sure that you use the first rendering option. But if you're going to take this back to the office, you can obviously use the best rendering option. All right. So once that's done, I'm going to export this to my photo library. So on to the next option. So basically what we're going to do here is, now that we have access to the client's site, we're going to go ahead and take a photo of the space where the layout is actually going to go into. Now this is definitely the preferred option for most, only when given an opportunity to visit the site, but it does require a bit of skill as well as our recommended procedure. So let's look at the 5 important steps to following when you use the include environment feature. I'm just going to go back into my slides here. All right, so these are the 5 important steps to gaining photo bliss. So basically, if you follow this quick guideline here, you'll ensure that the layout actually fits the photo that you're going to take. So the first thing you need to do is analyze the space. Then you need to go through some photography basics, also a bit of image editing. Then you need to scale that image so that it fits correctly. And then lastly, adjust the layout while it's in photo view. Okay, so again, the first thing you need to do is recognize the area in which you want to take a picture of. Here you're going to have to quickly assess whether or not this space is going to accommodate the layout that you've just created in kits. You may have to find out some fine details such as ceiling heights so that you can adjust it a little bit later on when you use the scaling feature. So these are all things that you need to ask your client of these details. Maybe even arm yourself with a measuring tape so you can quickly measure something within that space. Also, you need to make sure that, again, this space is going to accommodate the length and width of the actual layout that you're going to place in here. Because if the area is too small, or if you're in a position where you can't really take a good picture of the entire space, it may not work correctly. Next, you're going to go into some photography 101 basics. So you want to make sure that you prep the room by removing any easy-to-remove light objects. As you can see here, we've highlighted these lamps, which we can quickly move, because you want to make sure that you prep this room so that when you take a picture, you don't have any obstructions in the image that will kind of throw the client off. In this case, when you take a picture and when you use the floor removal, you won't be able to remove anything that is vertical, so it's best to remove those kind of items from your layout. Next, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you hold the iPad roughly about 5 feet 4 inches off the floor, with arms kind of loose and slightly extended, so that you can take a good picture at, let's say, at an average eye level. And then what you want to do is you want to line the camera frame with something in the scene so that you know that you're following a correct perspective, and that when you bring in the layout, it doesn't look obscured by weird angles or anything like that. And then what you want to do is, once that's all done, you're going to do a little bit of image editing. In this case, you're going to use a floor erase to remove any heavy objects or any objects that needed to remain within that space. Before you do the cleanup, one thing that you can do is, if there's a lot of furniture in place that you can somewhat move, you might want to place it towards the middle of the floor space, so that when you do the floor erase, it's easier to cover and erase off the actual image. And then don't forget, Again, I mentioned this before. You're gonna you want to scale this or calibrate this according to some kind of object in the space. So either have a measuring tape or find out those details from your client. In this case, we know that the client space is going to be roughly about 8 feet 10 inches here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I scale the image according to that height there. Okay. And then lastly, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you adjust your scene so that it fits within the space. You also want to make sure that there isn't any weird graphic issues. You want to use the layout that you've created to cover as many items that weren't able to be erased using the floor erase. So make sure that you adjust your scene accordingly. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through the actual procedure. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Kits, and then I'm going to go ahead and tap on HD Render. Now we're going to go into Include Environment, and then I'm going to go ahead and tap on New Photo. So what you can see here is my iPad camera that's on, utilizing the feature. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm raising my arms roughly about 5 feet 4 off the floor here. And my arms are slightly extended. And what I'm doing is I'm aligning my iPad frame at the top here with that sliding glass door in the back. And then once I'm satisfied with the image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take that photo, and that's done there. So basically, this is the area that I need to use for the actual environment photo feature. So now you have the option to actually cleaning up the space by using the erase feature. And by tapping on that, you see here that I have two options. I have an object erase as well as a floor erase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use the floor erase feature for this. And once I tap on floor, what Kits actually does is it provides you with this little white window on the bottom for you to select some type of swatch on the floor. Because what Kits is actually going to do is it's going to replicate the swatch that you've selected, and it's going to ask you to select a particular selection of the floor to erase any objects that are within the view of or that are cut within the marquee box that's created. So if you can see at the top left corner here, that's pretty much giving you a view of the swatch that it's going to use to replicate in that selection area. Okay, so once you're satisfied with that, go ahead and tap on Next. And now you get the selection window, which you need to place around all the objects that you want to erase. So I'm going to go ahead and place my finger on the white point that's in the corner of the selection box, and I'm going to drag it and place it where along the area that I want to erase. If you need to create an additional point, all you need to do is double tap on the selection area line, and that will create an additional point for you. So then, again, I'm going to move that to the area in which I want to cover. And if you look at the top left corner again, what Kits does is it provides you with a nice little zoomed in window here so that you can actually get a little bit more fine in detail to where you want to place your points. Now what I like to do is actually, I like to place my points along shadow lines. This way I'm still trying to create that realistic feel here. So I'm just following the shadow lines that I see on the floor to give it a little bit more of a realistic feel once I create that rendering. Okay, so now I'm done with that selection area. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and tap on Done. Now again, Kits will take a few seconds to analyze the space. And what it's actually doing right now is it's looking at the selection area that was just created and taking that swatch that we selected, and it's now replicating it over that area. And that's it. So now you can see what it's done. I mean, it's not an exact science, but you know what? It does the trick, because really what I want to do here is just to remove enough of the obstructions here so that when I bring in my scene, it actually works within that space. And again, going back to what we mentioned about the requirements for photo bliss, I want to make sure that I use the scene that we've created to try to hide any kind of graphic obstructions that may be within that scene. As you can see, I have a plant here that's cut in half, but really when I place the furniture in, it will pretty much cover the majority of that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and this time what I want to do is tap on Calibrate, because we're going to assign the scale to this image here. And I'm going to use the sliding doors to scale. And we know that the ceiling height here is 8 feet 10 inches. So let's go ahead and find that. So once I have the object size in place, again, I'm going to use the scaler on the right to making sure that I place it where it needs to be. Let's just use rotate again to rotate that along the perspective line. And there we go. So I'm going to assign this image, using the sliding doors in the back there, a scale of 8 feet 10 inches, so that when I bring in my furniture, it comes in to scale based on the scale that we've just provided. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and tap on Use. And there you go. So now you can see how that all actually comes together. Here again, I can position this the way I need to. But you can see how close to scale that really is. If you see the existing tables on the side, once I bring in this tabletop of the layer that I just created, you can almost see that the heights there are pretty consistent. Okay, and then once you're satisfied with the position of your layout, again, what I suggest is you go ahead and create that rendering. In this case, again, we may be client-facing, so I'm going to use the very first rendering option to complete that rendering. Okay, so now that that's done, again, let's save that to the photo library. And there you go. I mean, I've pretty much showed you how to use the environment photo feature. Now, the other neat thing about this feature is you can actually use any photo that has been taken from a previous project. Why is this important? Okay, so let me just actually go back into Include Environment. And at the bottom, you can see where it says Projects. If I tap on that, what Kits does is it brings up every single project that I've created, which I've used the photo feature in, so that I have access to those images that have been completed. And again, I'm just going to go through here, and let's say I want to use this particular photo. You can see basically all the images that were used within this project. I'm going to go ahead and use the first one. And you can see that we've already gone through the steps of erasing before. I have the option of reverting back to the original. I don't need to do that for this. What I can do is I can make sure that we calibrate the space. Again, we're going to say 8 feet 10 inches. I'm going to bring that measuring tape to a particular point in that space, making sure that that scales up to 8 feet 10 inches. Once that's done, again, tap on Done, tap on Use, and there you go. So you don't even have to take a photo at that particular moment. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to prepare you so that when you go to your client site, you can easily recognize the opportunity and confidently use this feature to wow your client.